Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's English learning session. I'm thrilled to focus on a skill that so many learners crave, but often find tricky: speaking. Let's start with a story about a learner named Kai, someone whose experience might feel familiar to you. Kai is a college student who studied English for over 6 years. He can read textbooks, write essays, and even pass grammar tests with good grades. But when it comes to speaking, he freezes up. Last semester, his class had a group project with an international student from the US. When the group sat down to discuss ideas, Kai wanted to say, "I think we should focus on the environment because it's a topic everyone cares about." But the words got stuck. He mumbled something like, "environment, good topic," and then stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. Later, he felt frustrated with himself. Why do I know all these words, but I can't say them out loud? If you've ever felt this way, like your English knowledge stays trapped in your head instead of coming out when you speak, you're not alone. Speaking is different from reading or writing. It requires you to think, listen, and form sentences in real time, often while someone is waiting for your response. It's not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try and consistent enough to get better. Today, we'll walk through Kai's journey to improving his speaking skills, from avoiding conversations to leading group discussions, and break down practical, everyday methods that worked for him. We'll use simple, common words, focus on real-life scenarios, and avoid complicated jargon. By the end, you'll have a clear plan to turn "I can't speak" into "I can communicate confidently." Part 1. Why speaking is the heart of language learning. Let's start with a simple truth. Speaking is why we learn languages. You might memorize 10,000 vocabulary words or master every grammar rule, but none of that matters if you can't use it to talk to someone. Language is a tool for connection, and speaking is how you build that connection. Kai learned this when he traveled to Singapore with his family last summer. He wanted to ask a local for directions to a famous park, but he was too scared to speak. Instead, he stood there scrolling through a map app for 15 minutes, even though a kind shopkeeper was standing right next to him, waiting to help. Later, his little sister, who'd only studied English for 2 years, walked up to the shopkeeper and said, "Excuse me, where is Gardens by the Bay?" The shopkeeper smiled and gave clear directions. Kai realized his sister didn't use perfect grammar or big words, but she communicated her needs, and that's what mattered. Speaking also turns your book knowledge into practical skill. Think about learning to ride a bike. You can read a book about how to balance, but you'll never learn until you get on the bike and pedal. Speaking is the pedaling of English learning. Every time you say a sentence out loud, you're training your brain to link words, grammar, and ideas faster. You're also teaching your mouth to make English sounds more naturally. Confidence is another big reason speaking matters. When Kai finally started practicing speaking, he noticed something. The more he talked, the more sure of himself he felt. He used to avoid answering questions in class, but after a month of practice, he volunteered to present his project. His teacher said, "Your ideas are clear, and you sound confident," a comment that made Kai feel proud, not anxious. Speaking well doesn't just help you communicate, it helps you feel good about your English skills. And let's not forget real-life opportunities. Whether you want to study abroad, get an international job, or make friends from other countries, speaking English opens doors. Kai wants to work in tech someday, and he knows that many tech companies use English in meetings. If he can't speak confidently, he might miss out on the job he wants. Speaking isn't just a nice-to-have skill. It's a key to future success. Part 2. Creating speaking opportunities. You don't need a partner. One of the biggest myths about improving speaking is that you need a native speaker or a language partner to practice. But Kai learned that the best way to start is by speaking to himself. You have a built-in practice partner with you 24/7 yourself, and using that partner can help you feel more comfortable before you talk to others. Let's start with self-talk, describing your daily actions out loud as you do them. Kai started doing this every morning while getting ready for school. He'd say things like, "I'm waking up now. The alarm went off at 7 a.m. I need to brush my teeth. My toothbrush is blue. I'm putting toothpaste on it. Now I'm brushing my teeth up and down, not side to side." At first, it felt silly, talking to himself while standing in front of the mirror, but he stuck with it. Why does self-talk work? Because it connects English words to the actions you're doing right now, which makes them easier to remember. It also trains your brain to think in English instead of translating from your native language. After a week of self-talk, Kai noticed he was forming sentences faster. He didn't have to pause and think, "What's the English word for toothpaste?" It just came to him. You can do self-talk anywhere. While cooking, "I'm cutting vegetables. The knife is sharp. I need to be careful." While walking to work, "I'm walking down Main Street. There's a coffee shop on my left. A bus just passed by." Or while folding laundry, "I'm folding a shirt. This shirt is red. I bought it last month." The key is to keep it simple. Use short sentences and focus on words you already know. Next is shadowing, a technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat their words immediately, like shadowing their voice. Kai loved this because he could do it while commuting to school. He'd listen to short English podcasts. His favorite was one about daily life, with hosts who spoke slowly and clearly and repeat every sentence they said. For example, if the host said, "I usually make oatmeal for breakfast because it's quick and healthy," Kai would repeat it right away, trying to match the host's speed, tone, and pronunciation. Shadowing helps with two big speaking challenges: fluency and pronunciation. When you repeat someone else's words, you're training your mouth to make English sounds more naturally. You're also learning how to link words together, like make oatmeal instead of make oatmeal, something native speakers do without thinking. Kai noticed that after 2 weeks of shadowing, his speech sounded less choppy and more flowing. To try shadowing, pick a resource with clear, slow speech. Short podcasts, children's shows, like Peppa Pig, which uses simple words and repetition, or even English news segments for learners. Start with 5 minutes a day and gradually increase to 10 or 15. The goal isn't to memorize the words. It's to get used to speaking English at a natural pace. When Kai felt more comfortable with self-talk and shadowing, he tried recording himself. He'd pick a simple topic, like my weekend or my favorite food, and speak about it for 1-2 minutes, then listen to the recording. At first, he cringed. "My voice sounds weird," he thought, "and I made so many mistakes." But he forced himself to listen again, and he noticed something. He was using more complex sentences than he thought, and his pronunciation of words like favorite was getting better. Recording yourself helps you spot areas to improve without feeling judged. Kai would write down small notes after listening. "I said too many times," or "I forgot to use past tense when talking about Saturday." Then he'd record himself again, trying to fix those small issues. Over time, the ums got fewer and his tenses became more consistent. You don't need fancy equipment, just your phone's voice memo app. Pick a topic you know well so you don't have to worry about vocabulary. Speak naturally and then listen with an open mind. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about noticing progress. Part 3. Building confidence. Start small. Think, Big confidence is the biggest barrier for many speakers, and Kai was no exception. He used to think, if I make a mistake, people will laugh at me, so he avoided speaking altogether. But he learned that confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being brave enough to try, even when you're scared. The first step Kai took was starting with short, simple sentences. He used to try to say long, complicated things. Like, although I wanted to go to the library yesterday, I couldn't because my bike had a flat tire and I had to wait for my dad to fix it. But he'd get stuck halfway through. His English teacher told him, it's better to say two simple sentences than one complicated, one that you can't finish. So Kai started saying, I wanted to go to the library yesterday. I couldn't go because my bike was broken. Both sentences mean the same thing, but the simple version was easier to say, and it made Kai feel more confident. Simple sentences are like training wheels for speaking. They let you focus on getting the basics right, like tense or word order, without overwhelming yourself. Once you're comfortable with short sentences, you can start adding more details. For example, Kai went from I ate noodles for lunch to I ate noodles for lunch. They were spicy, and I drank water with them. Slowly, his sentences got longer, but he never rushed. Another trick that helped Kai was positive self-talk, changing the way he thought about his English. He used to say, my English is bad, or I'm terrible at speaking. But his teacher told him, every time you say that, you're making it harder to improve. Instead, say, my English is getting better every day. So Kai started repeating that phrase to himself every morning. My English is getting better every day. At first, he didn't believe it, but after a few weeks, he started to see small improvements, and the phrase felt more true. Your mindset matters more than you think. If you tell yourself you're bad at speaking, you'll be scared to try. If you tell yourself you're improving, you'll be more willing to practice. Try this every night. Write down one thing you did well in English that day, even if it's just, I said good morning to my English teacher, or I shadowed a podcast for 5 minutes. Over time, these small wins will add up, and your confidence will grow. Kai also learned to embrace mistakes, a lesson that changed everything for him. One day, he was talking to his international classmate, Mia, about his weekend. He said, I go to the park with my friend. Mia smiled and said, did you go to the park yesterday? Kai realized he'd used present tense instead of past, and he felt embarrassed. But Mia said, that's okay, I still understood you. I make mistakes too. Like last week, I said, I eat dinner at 9 p.m. yesterday. That conversation made Kai realize native speakers and advanced learners make mistakes too. Mistakes aren't a sign that you're bad at English. They're a sign that you're trying. Every mistake you make is a chance to learn. For example, when Kai said, I go instead of I went, he learned to check his tense when talking about the past. Now, he's more careful with tenses, and he doesn't beat himself up when he slips up. If you make a mistake while speaking, take a deep breath and correct yourself gently. You can say, oops, I went to the park yesterday. Most people will appreciate that you're trying to get it right and they'll barely notice the mistake. Part 4. Speaking Strategies. Make it easier to communicate. Once Kai had built a little confidence, he started using simple strategies to make speaking easier. These strategies helped him talk more fluently, even when he didn't know every word. The first strategy was learning useful phrases instead of single words. Kai used to memorize lists of vocabulary words, like delicious, comfortable, exciting, but he didn't know how to use them in sentences. His teacher told him, phrases are more useful because you can use them right away in conversations. So Kai started learning phrases like, that sounds interesting. When someone tells him about their hobby, "Can you repeat that, please?" When he doesn't hear something. "I'm not sure, but I think." When he wants to share an idea without being certain. "How do you say word in English?" When he doesn't know a word, these phrases became his. Conversation tools. For example, when Mia told him about her weekend trip to the beach, Kai said, "That sounds interesting. Did you swim in the ocean?" When Mia spoke too fast, he said, "Can you repeat that, please?" He didn't have to think about how to form the sentences, he just pulled the phrases from his memory. You can learn useful phrases from real conversations, podcasts, or even English textbooks for beginners. Focus on phrases you'll use often. Greetings. Good morning. How are you? Asking questions. Where do you live? And responding to others. I agree. Or, that's too bad. Write them down in a notebook and practice saying them out loud until they feel natural. Another strategy Kai used was thinking in English instead of translating. He used to think of a sentence in his native language, then translate each word to English, and by the time he finished, the conversation had moved on. His teacher gave him a tip. Start with simple thoughts like, "I'm hungry," or "It's raining," and try to think them in English without translating. At first, it was hard. Kai would catch himself thinking, "I'm hungry," then have to stop and say, "I'm hungry" in his head. But he practiced every day. While eating, he thought, "This rice is good." While walking, he thought, "The sun is shining." While studying, he thought, "I need a pen." After a month, he noticed he was thinking in English more often. Sometimes he didn't even realize it until he said the thought out loud. Thinking in English saves time and makes your speech more fluent. It's like typing without looking at the keyboard. Once you get used to it, you don't have to focus on each step. You just do it. Start with 1-2 simple thoughts a day and gradually add more. Kai also learned to use the words he knows instead of waiting for the perfect word. He used to stop talking if he couldn't think of a specific word, like umbrella or sandwich, but his teacher told him, "You don't need the perfect word, you just need to get your meaning across." For example, instead of saying, "I forgot my umbrella," Kai could say, "I forgot the thing I use when it rains." Instead of, "I ate a sandwich for lunch," he could say, "I ate bread with meat inside for lunch." Native speakers do this all the time. They use simple descriptions when they can't think of a word. And most of the time, the other person will understand. Kai tried this once when he was talking to Mia. He couldn't think of the word backpack, so he said, "The bag I carry to school." Mia said, "Oh, your backpack. Did you forget it?" It worked, and Kai felt proud that he didn't let one word stop him from speaking. Part 5. Using media to practice. Turn passive. Listening into active speaking media, like YouTube videos, movies, and podcasts, is one of the best tools for improving speaking, and Kai used it every day. The key is to turn passive listening, just watching or listening, into active speaking, repeating, responding, retelling. Kai loved watching short YouTube videos about travel. His favorite channel was a beginner-friendly one, where the host visited different cities and talked about his experiences. Here's how he used these videos for speaking practice. First, he'd listen carefully and repeat sentences aloud. He'd pause the video after every 1-2 sentences and repeat what the host said. For example, if the host said, "Today I'm in Tokyo. The weather is sunny and the streets are busy," Kai would pause and repeat, "Today I'm in Tokyo. The weather is sunny and the streets are busy." He tried to match the host's tone, happy and excited, and his pronunciation of words like Tokyo and busy. Next, he'd answer questions as if he were in the conversation. Many travel videos have the host asking rhetorical questions, questions they don't expect an answer to, like, "Have you ever been to Tokyo?" Or, "What's your favorite thing about traveling?" Kai would pause the video and answer the question out loud. No, I haven't been to Tokyo, but I want to go someday. My favorite thing about traveling is trying new food. This helped him practice responding to questions naturally, which is key for real conversations. Finally, he'd retell the video in his own words. After watching the whole video, which was usually 3-5 minutes long, Kai would turn it off and say, "The host went to Tokyo today. The weather was sunny, and the streets were busy. He ate sushi for lunch. It looked delicious. He also visited a park with cherry trees. He said Tokyo is a great city for travelers." Retelling helps you practice organizing your thoughts in English and using past tense, since you're talking about something that already happened. You can use any media you like. Just make sure it's simple enough for you to understand. If you like music, listen to English songs with simple lyrics like children's songs or pop songs with slow tempos and sing along. If you like movies, watch short clips from family-friendly films like Toy Story or Finding Nemo and repeat the lines. The more you turn listening into speaking, the faster you'll improve. Part 6. Overcoming Common Speaking Challenges. Even with practice, Kai faced challenges, and you will too. Let's talk about the most common ones and how to fix them. The first challenge is fear of making mistakes. We already talked about this, but it's worth repeating. Mistakes are part of learning. Kai used to avoid speaking in class because he was scared of saying something wrong, but he realized that every mistake taught him something. For example, when he said, "I eat dinner at 7 p.m. yesterday," mixing present and past tense, his teacher gently corrected him, "We use eights for past actions, like yesterday." Kai wrote that down in his notebook, and he never made that mistake again. Now, he thinks of mistakes as free lessons. They show him exactly what he needs to practice next. If you feel scared, start small. Speak to someone you trust, like a friend or family member who's also learning English, or practice alone first. The more you speak, the less scary mistakes will feel. The second challenge is slow thinking, taking too long to form sentences, which makes conversations feel awkward. Kai struggled with this at first. He'd pause for 10 seconds before answering a simple question like, "What did you do yesterday?" His teacher told him, "Slow thinking is normal. Your brain is still getting used to linking English words together. The more you practice, the faster you'll get." Kai started doing quick response drills. He'd ask himself simple questions like, "What's your favorite color? What time do you wake up?" and answer them as fast as he could without overthinking. He also used flashcards with question prompts. "What did you eat for breakfast? Where do you go on weekends?" and practice answering in 2-3 seconds. After a month, his thinking speed improved. He could answer questions without long pauses. The third challenge is limited vocabulary. Feeling like you don't know enough words to say what you want. Kai used to think, "I need to learn 1,000 more words before I can speak well." But he learned that's not true. You can communicate with just 500 common words. Words like eat, sleep, go, good, bad, happy, sad. For example, instead of saying, "I'm feeling melancholy today," you can say, "I'm feeling sad today." Instead of, "I consumed a nutritious meal," you can say, "I ate a good lunch." Kai started focusing on high-frequency words, words that native speakers use every day, and learned how to use them in different sentences. He also learned to paraphrase, say the same thing in a different way if he didn't know a word. For example, if he didn't know umbrella, he'd say, "The thing I use to stay dry when it rains." Most people will understand, and you'll avoid getting stuck. The fourth challenge is unclear pronunciation, worrying that people won't understand you because you don't say words right. Kai had trouble with words like 3, he pronounced it tree, and this, he pronounced it dis. To fix this, he used a free app that plays native speakers' pronunciations of words. He'd listen to the word, repeat it, and record himself to compare. He also watched short videos that explained how to make English sounds, like how to put your tongue between your teeth for ETH sounds. He practiced for 5 minutes every night, focusing on one sound at a time. After a few weeks, his pronunciation improved. People stopped asking him to repeat three and this. The key is to focus on 1-2 sounds at a time, not all of them at once. Small improvements add up to clearer speech. Part 7. Advanced Speaking Techniques. Move beyond simple sentences. Once Kai felt comfortable with basic speaking, he wanted to challenge himself and move to more advanced skills. These techniques helped him speak more fluently, express complex ideas, and sound more natural. The first advanced technique was storytelling, talking about his own experiences in detail. Kai started with short stories, like "The time I forgot my keys" or "My first time trying sushi." He'd structure his stories with a beginning, what happened first, middle, what happened next, and end, how it ended. For example, he'd say, "Last month, I went to a sushi restaurant with my friends. I'd never tried sushi before, so I was nervous. My friend ordered for me a roll with salmon and avocado. When I took my first bite, it tasted amazing. Now, I go to that restaurant every 2 weeks." Storytelling helps with fluency because it lets you practice linking sentences together, using words like then, next, finally, and using past tense consistently. It also makes speaking more fun. People love hearing personal stories, and it gives you a chance to share your personality. To practice storytelling, pick a simple experience from your life, a trip, a funny moment, a challenge you overcame, and talk about it for 2-3 minutes. Focus on using time words. Yesterday, then, after that, to keep the story flowing. You can even record yourself and listen to see if the story makes sense. The second advanced technique was giving opinions, talking about what you think about a topic and why. Kai's class had a discussion about should students have homework on weekends, and he wanted to share his opinion. He used the simple structure, I think opinion, because reason 1 and reason 2. For example, he said, "I think students should not have homework on weekends because they need time to rest and spend time with family. Also, weekends are a good time to do hobbies, like reading or playing sports." Giving opinions helps you practice using more complex sentences with because and also and logical thinking in English. It's also a useful skill for real life. You'll need to give opinions in meetings, classes, and conversations with friends. To practice giving opinions, pick a simple topic like, "Is coffee good for you?" or "Should people use phones at the dinner table?" and use the "I think, because" structure. Start with one reason, then add a second reason as you get more comfortable. The third advanced technique was role-playing, pretending to be in real-life situations and practicing what you'd say. Kai and his friend Li Wei did this every weekend. They'd pick a scenario like ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions and take turns playing different roles. For example, in the restaurant scenario, Kai played the customer and Li Wei played the waiter. Kai said, "Hi, can I have a hamburger and a glass of water, please?" Li Wei said, "Sure. Would you like fries with that?" Kai said, "Yes, please." "How long will it take?" Role-playing helps you practice specific phrases for common situations, so you'll feel prepared when you face them in real life. It also makes speaking more interactive and fun. To practice role-playing, pick a scenario you might face, like job interview or talking to a hotel receptionist, and write down 3-4 phrases you'd use. Then, practice saying them out loud. You can even play both roles if you don't have a partner. The fourth advanced technique was summarizing, explaining the main ideas of a text, video, or conversation in your own words. Kai started doing this after reading short English articles about topics like animals or the environment, or watching short news clips. For example, after reading an article about pandas, he said, "This article says pandas live in China. They eat bamboo. They eat 38 kilograms of bamboo every day. Pandas are endangered, but people are working to protect them." Summarizing helps you practice focusing on important information instead of small details and using concise sentences. It's also a useful skill for school or work. You'll need to summarize meetings, lectures, or reports. To practice summarizing, read a short text, 1 to 2 paragraphs, or watch a short video, 2 to 3 minutes. Then, say 3-4 sentences about the main ideas. Don't worry about including every detail, just the most important ones. Part 8. Building a speaking habit. Consistency is key. The most important thing Kai learned is that fluency doesn't come from one long practice session. It comes from consistent daily practice. Even 10-15 minutes a day is better than 2 hours once a week, because it keeps your brain focused on English and helps you build a habit. Kai built a speaking habit by creating a fixed routine. He decided to practice speaking for 15 minutes every morning before school. 5 minutes of self-talk while getting ready, 5 minutes of shadowing a podcast on his commute, and 5 minutes of recording himself talking about his plans for the day. He set a reminder on his phone to make sure he didn't forget. At first, it was hard to stick to the routine. Some mornings he wanted to sleep in, but he told himself, "Just 15 minutes. I can do that." After 3 weeks, it became a habit. He didn't even need the reminder anymore. To build your own routine, pick a time of day when you're free, morning, lunch break, evening, and a short amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes. Choose 2-3 simple activities, self-talk, shadowing, recording, that you enjoy. The more consistent you are, the easier it will be to keep practicing. Kai also combines speaking with other skills to make practice feel less like a chore. For example, when he read an English story, he'd summarize it aloud when he finished. When he listened to a song, he'd sing along even if he didn't know all the words. When he learned a new vocabulary word, he'd make 3 sentences with it out loud. This way, speaking became part of his other English activities, not an extra task. Another tip that helped Kai was tracking his progress. He kept a small notebook where he wrote down what he practiced each day. Monday, 5 minutes, self-talk, 5 minutes shadowing, talked about weekend plans. Tuesday, 5 minutes self-talk, summarized a video about pandas, practiced ordering food role play. Every Sunday, he'd look back at his notebook and see how much he'd done. It motivated him to keep going. He could see that he was making progress, even if it felt slow. You can track your progress too. Use a notebook, a phone app, or even a simple list. Write down what you practiced, how long you practiced, and one thing you did well. Over time, you'll have a record of your improvement, which will keep you motivated. Finally, Kai rewarded himself for consistent practice. Every time he stuck to his routine for a full week, he'd treat himself to something he enjoyed, like his favorite snack, a new episode of his favorite show, or a walk in the park. Rewards make practice feel fun and give you something to look forward to. You can choose any reward that works for you. Small treats add up to big motivation. Conclusion. Kai's journey from hesitant speaker to confident communicator didn't happen overnight. It took months of consistent practice, small mistakes, and lots of patience. But he did it, and so can you. To recap what we've learned today, Speaking is the heart of language learning. It's how you connect with others and turn book knowledge into practical skill. You don't need a partner to practice. Use self-talk, shadowing, and recording to build comfort. Confidence comes from starting small, embracing mistakes, and using positive self-talk. Simple strategies like learning useful phrases, thinking in English, and using the words you know make speaking easier. Media is a great tool. Turn passive listening into active speaking by repeating, responding, and retelling. Common challenges: fear of mistakes, slow thinking, limited vocabulary, unclear pronunciation can be fixed with practice. Advanced techniques like storytelling, giving opinions, role-playing, and summarizing help you move beyond simple sentences. Consistency is key. Build a daily routine, track your progress, and reward yourself for sticking to it. Remember, speaking English well isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to try, even when you're scared. Every sentence you say, even the simple ones, brings you closer to fluency. Kai now leads group discussions in his class, talks to Mia regularly about their hobbies, and even helps other learners practice speaking. He still makes mistakes, but he doesn't let them stop him. He says, "The best thing I did was stop waiting to be good enough to speak. I just started talking, and that's when I got better." So today, I want you to take one small step. Pick one speaking activity, self-talk, shadowing, recording, and do it for 5 minutes. Tomorrow, do it again. The next day, add another minute. Over time, those small steps will turn into big progress. Thank you for joining today's session. I believe in you, and I can't wait to hear about your speaking journey. Keep talking, keep practicing, and most importantly, enjoy the process. You've got this.